Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 31st, and well, it continued. We were still within a short setup, and magenta still below yellow, and it continued to cascade and rising orange. It was a little bit softer earlier, but these were pretty negative numbers from a shakeout reading, and we moved back to below the red line here. So that's a retest of the low. Whether that happens intraday or not, we'll see. But it's consistent with the sell signal it's in, and that fully fills the ES's retrace to the positive extreme. So that was something we saw had already been filled on the Nasdaq, and we were just waiting for it to take place on the ES. And sure enough, it did that. And that's exactly why we put those on there. And it's so critical because it really gives fantastic target range, because where we know the short starts, you've got a pretty decent read there, and you can exactly estimate what the expectation is. And you can see the NASDAQ readings a little softer from a DOC standpoint in that the orange is not rising the same strength, but pretty identical from a shakeout as well as the extreme histogram readings. Looking over to that euro, it's still caught between 0.23%, hovering right around parity, and they're doing a pretty good job holding it there for now. There's no reason the euro should be anywhere close to parity with the dollar at this stage. It should be moving down towards the 0.93 range, but it really can't afford to let that get out of control, because that becomes a real confidence crisis. Not that the one doesn't already exist in the EU, but um, a lot of U.S. partners would suffer if there's a continued erosion. From a gold standpoint, it's also still within that same short configuration as well, and not really showing anything. And it's just a lot of mixed signals at this particular stage of where things are. Oil gave back quite a bit of those gains, but still over that 90 barrel range, and still within a soft read. So we get a little bit softer back down towards the 0% number. From a treasury standpoint, pretty much flat, despite all the, well, it wasn't dramatic selling, it was modest, and so not that much of a move, but rates are still going to have to come up to accommodate the Fed. I think there's still some disbelief in the market, which is not surprising, that the Fed will be as aggressive as their talk. I think some of the talk, in their view, is just to suppress stock prices, but uh, handwriting on the wall down the road, at some point they're going to have to ease, because it's just going to have too much of a dramatic impact on deficits, and there isn't any new revenue that's going to be taking care of that. Bitcoin down at the bottom of its range, could not hold that 22 resistance point. It had been slightly above it, but every time there was any attempt to make it, we just kept dipping back below MBI magenta, dropping under the yellow and then below the 33. And each time it does that, significant sell signal, at least from a daily standpoint. That's pretty consistent. Intraday, it's had a couple of little moves, moved back up to 50% of the loss there, only to give it back down, and was right in between the bottom range. And short-term buy set up from there from an ETH standpoint. Also beautiful, and the turnarounds with that. Uh, this is where you get to see some of that confluence where the building pressure of buyers just finally overwhelms the short configuration once you get to that 23 and the green DOC crosses above, and it takes over from there. From a 50K standpoint, you can see we really didn't move a whole lot in general. We were talking about this as it was going. The white was leading. That suggested a move back to the 0%, just when the 5K net was showing a lot of promise. And I posted on the Skype chat that the expectation was that the 50K weakness, and we would trail back lower. And sure enough, we did. And, I caught some bid back going through there, but still pretty much right at the 23% intraday, though. Serious volume. A lot of this from the pre-market was the markings that I gave for positive extremes. That was going all the way back to the beginning of the run. Right there was the first positive extreme, so we expected to move all the way back from there. And once the sell came in early in pre-market, I had mentioned the secondary target, which was at the 53. We filled the 53, and then from there, it was just a cascade lower all the way into the open. And once the open began, that selling just broadened and brought us all the way back down to that 39.70 before it caught a solid bid at that particular stage. And that one brought us back up. But then we kept seeing these spikes of the white, even from this run up here, secondary one, then a third uh, MBI white spike over that 40 level, and that was just a bit too much. So we started to fade back to the zero there. It happened again. That led to another breakdown, and this is a lot of volume on the chart, just in general, that I'm able to show. So seeing it go that far for a single day just shows you how much activity. So there was a lot of players in this, and you don't expect that for an end of August situation. Usually not until after Labor Day, and that do you get any kind of activity in the beginning of September, but it started early, so there's going to be some definite fireworks for tomorrow, as well as the options players try to find some kind of zero out for the month and prepare to pre-position for September, which I would expect is going to be extraordinarily volatile as we start to develop electioneering and everything like that going into the midterms, and that will create all sorts of ups and downs based on everyone's perception of where things are going to go. Um, as we ended up towards the end of the day, though, the dip coming down caught some solid strength in this compressed little double bottom there. The magenta popped up early, green crossed above on the DOC, and orange dipped below red, and that led to a little springboard. Caught a little bit of a sell signal right at the end. It's fighting that off this particular stage. Unless the magenta pivots lower, that would be the next expectation for any kind of move lower. But exciting stuff. Indicator renewal's been sent out, so be looking for that. And because the end of the month is going to start in the middle of the week, you want to be prepared. As always, though, trade well. Look for me in the Skype chat. Have a good one.